Hey, Dr. Ryder, Hunter, and Christina. My name is Eddie Knighton, and this is my peer commentary number one on liberal arts colleges and specialized institutions for Module 2. I'll take it person by person, begin with Christina at Berea College. Uh, my first reaction is how we essentially had the same completely different experience. And what I mean by that is our stories are very similar in terms that we both attended the college that we're presenting. We attended small schools that are defined by the regions that they're in, although I do speculate that UNCA is larger than Berea College. And both of us are highly influenced and positively defined by the experiences. What's interesting, however, is how different our experiences must have been. You know, for example, I guarantee when you say that Berea was focused on social justice, and I say that UNCA has a strong emphasis on social justice, I'm willing to bet that we are having two different conversations. So, in a way, I would have liked to have known a little more about, what does social justice and community involvement means. You state that the college was the first to integrate racially, and that they have many black organizations. Those are the examples that you give. But I speculate when they talk about involvement, I would say that Berea is probably a little more practical, that they address the needs of the more localized community, probably poverty. You address undereducation and unemployment, etc., such things like that, which in the grand libertarian frame of mind is probably how communities should operate. We should start locally and think globally. And unfortunately, I think UNCA does a little bit of the opposite of that. They're trying to correct it now, but UNCA kind of thinks more in a meta way in terms of that they're the type of college that instead of approaching regional unemployment, they're the type of college that is more concerned at protesting Ben Shapiro speaking, or I'm certain that the day after Trump was elected was a collegiate day of mourning at UNCA. So I think it's just sort of a difference in priorities and in worldviews, which I found really, really interesting. I would be interested to know, and of course I could Google this, but just for sake of conversations, about the organizational structure primarily. Who decides the mission and the vision? How do they uphold and update it? Do all the students agree, or are some students, sorry for the phrase here, being held hostage for the low tuition and lack of options? Because I remember there being some students at UNCA that really didn't like the school's mission. They just happened to go there because they didn't want to move and they were in proximity to Asheville. Is it static or progressive? If they didn't like the mission or if it become outdated, could the students themselves change it? Or do they agree with it? How open is it to social change? It has a strong indicators of progressiveness, that you mentioned, coeducational, tons of organizations, but, the Institute itself. And a personal question for you is, were you religious before you attended the college and that's what attracted you? Or was that an environmental press from the college that you just kind of carry with you? These are sincere questions as admittedly, I have a very limited and egocentric view of a liberal arts college and what students are like. Moving on up to Hunter, I don't really know how to approach discussing the Citadel and not come off as appearing impolite. It's just apples and aluminum siding when compared to what I think about as college. And, your presentation left me with more questions than comments. But anyway, so I'll non-controversially approach it briefly by just discussing the four organizational aspects. The physical aspects, it's imposing. There's no ambiguity about its purpose. It's literally a castle, and castles are defensive. The cadets are modern knights, here to save the rest of us, the plebeians. The aggregate environment, if the castle doesn't immediately inform you of your purpose, the shaved heads and the uniforms do. And if that still doesn't work, waking up at 5 in the morning and being required to attend traditionally voluntary functions such as football games will. With that said, I can't really imagine anyone applying to the Citadel and attending Citadel without not knowing first and not wanting this uniform camaraderie and routine. Scholars and leaders, ironically, would do well at the Citadel, and I'm certain that it's appealing to more realistic, enterprising, and conventional personality types, students that are practically pursuing and advancing a predetermined military vocation. In this respect, the Citadel is absolutely first rate. I'm willing to bet that there's not many undecided students in their freshman class, which is literally, my liberal arts college was flooded with them. Organizational environments, I can't imagine that there's any room for interpretation in its organizational structure. I've never been in the military, but I know that it operates on strict policies and rules. Peoples in positions of power are rarely questioned and respond primarily to the positions above him. The whole story of men rushing to certain death at the command of a person above them, even though they know that they will die. That's sort of the popular mythos there. Military institutions celebrate competitiveness and competition. Also, I think it's unique that the stratification is not necessarily a byproduct of the administration and the bureaucracy, but a necessary and embraced part. And another feature I'd say is it's painfully resilient toward change. They admitted the first girl in '95. That's very, very recent. And I guarantee friendly hazing was only a small part of her individual inability to succeed at the Citadel. That and probably the separate bathroom issues. Socially constructed environments, despite my explicitly biased speech about the organizational aspects, I really do like and respect soldiers. Unlike the soft-spoiled philosophers at secular liberal arts institution, these are men and 10% women who will wake up at 5 in the morning to drill. Most of them do not care about the specifics of geopolitical economic politics and believe that they are willingly risk their lives so I can sit around and play guitar and complain about things. And as a man myself, as a heteronormative white male, I even romanticize about such inclusive and camaraderie. As a contrarian, I keep my distance and I am painfully and regretfully individualistic, hedonistic, and a lifelong uncommitted student. But to be with others of my kind, to share that common truth, which is unquestioned and unchanging, I am highly susceptible to that type of socialization. The only thing that holds me back is the very intellectual realization, which makes that whole thing absurd. But maybe this is why higher education has evolved to have so many options and so many different personality types. We can go to college for who we are and for who we want to be. And therefore, we also have so many different options and places to work. Thank you for your video, and I hope you guys have a good rest of the semester.